Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. Now today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is really important, and that is how do we define a well-functioning bioretention system? Now the reason why this is important is if we're going to go on and we're going to talk about maintenance and we're going to try and look after these systems, we're going to try and design them, well, we need to know what the end goal is, right? And with my maintenance hat on and this sort of thing, it's super important, right? Because there are a million different tasks that you can do in a bioretention system, but which ones are sensible and which ones aren't really depends on what your end goal is. And the end goal should be well-functioning systems. Now, in doing that, we need to be conscious that there's a whole bunch of different functions that bioretention systems perform. And so we need to, in having this discussion, have it relative to the particular function. So today we're going to focus in on one and just talk about the water quality function of bioretention systems and set up a few parameters that we think are good surrogates for whether a system is functioning well or not. So I'm going to spin the camera around and we're going to get into it. So I've deliberately picked a system here which I don't think is terrible, but which certainly isn't perfect. And we're going to talk about it. So from a water quality point of view, to my mind, there's really two things that we need to have going on for a system to be doing its job. One, we need the water to be draining through the filter media, right? Because bioretention systems, the majority of their water treatment job happens within the filter media. So, functionally, number one, water needs to be getting through the system to define it as well functioning. Number two, a lot of the performance of bioretention systems, not all, but a lot of it comes from the plants that are in it, right? So to give you an example of that, nitrogen. Nitrogen is removed from stormwater by little microbes on the roots and microorganisms, bacteria, these sorts of things on the roots of the plants within the filter media. So you can have a bioretention system with just filter media in it, i.e. essentially a sand filter, and it won't remove any nitrogen. You have the plants in it, you create the habitat for the organisms, and then you can have the nitrogen removal. But what's more, some plants are better at doing this than others for whatever reason. Maybe it's the root structure, maybe it's the sorts of organisms that they allow to inhabit them. Some plants are better at this than others. So functional attribute number two is we need the right plants in bioretention systems. And in my opinion, if you have a system that has filter media that allows the water through it and the right plants in bioretention, you are a long way towards having a functional bioretention system, because other things that are also important can group down under those two, right? So think about it. Filter media where the water drains through can comprise of a few things. The media itself, so down here, that part of media, physically has to be able to let water through. But equally, that little subtitle there also suggests, well, we shouldn't have any short circuiting of the media. So if I came over here and I found a big hole beside this pit that the water was rushing down rather than going through the media itself, well then we'd go, okay, that's failing that first test of having media that drains at the appropriate rate, right? Because the water's not draining through the filter media, it's draining around the edge of it. Equally with the plants, right? So we know that from a maintenance point of view, you want to keep the weeds out because the weeds will eventually come up and overtake the desirable vegetation and outcompete it. Well, that functional indicator of having the right plants in there is a good tick box for that, because you can go, okay, I have the right plants now, and you can extend it just a little bit to say, well, is there any imminent risk of losing those plants? Is there a particular weed species that's coming up and getting going? So we can use those two indicators as a screen. So let's do it now. Let's apply it to this particular system that I've been wandering around in. And this is a system that I've got a bit of history with because it was probably one of the very first systems I found when I worked at Logan City Council. I went out on site one day with a colleague and a friend, Barney Resch, and we stumbled across this. And it's not too bad. And it's got even more potential than what's showing up here. But it's nicely integrates into this parkland here. It's got shallow batters into it. There's some trees around the edges. So as they're slowly getting up and going, they're screening stuff off. It's a nice little system, but let's apply that functionality test to it. So the first one, does the media drain? Well, to be 100% sure of this, Well, let's go at one thing. So short circuiting. So I've wandered around this system before I pulled out the camera, and I didn't find any short circuiting around anything here. So you can see bits and pieces around the pit. It's pretty good. The filter media is packed in. Same thing up the inlet. There's no real short circuiting there. So, you know, going pretty good. There's a little bit of erosion up the top end. And I know historically this system's always been prone to a little bit of erosion up the front end. So that might be a little bit of a risk factor of future short circuiting. But, you know, not doing too bad in that respect. But we've got to apply the other test for is water getting through the filter media, and that's does the filter media itself drain. Well, it's been a long time since I've seen this system in the wet. It's reasonably sandy here. I would say there's a good chance of water getting through this, but there are bits of this media that are really hard. So if we wanted to test that for sure, we'd want to do one of a few things. Either we can come back here and do an infiltration test, which, you know, there's proper methods for this, but crudely speaking, you get a PVC pipe and bash it into the ground and pour water into it at you know, set periods in time, see how far it drops, record how much water you put in, and you can figure out how quick the media is draining. Or equally, you could come back when it's raining and have a look, check that water's coming out the under drainage pipes, and then you can get a pretty quick screen of what's going on, right? So visual inspection still seems fairly sandy, decent chance water's getting into it. Just want to, you know, maybe check it out, make sure that's okay. Oh, one good reason on that particular topic, and you can see how these two indicators start to encompass other things, right? Is one good reason to come out and check it out in the rain is a system could be blocked up by a blockage in the pipes at the bottom, not just at the surface. So the infiltration test does a good job of telling you about the media, but not necessarily the function as a whole. Whereas simply coming out when it's raining and having a look at what's coming out the under drainage pipes, and I'll try and, so the under drainage pipes are down this pit here. I'm not going to risk dropping my camera down here, but to actually show you those. So that's that test. So I'm going to give this system a, you know, reasonable chance it's doing reasonably well. So let's talk about the plants. Well, there's a reasonable number of plants in here, right? There are obviously some bare patches, so we're not going to give this 100% tick, but it's not too bad. We can see that even when there are these gaps in here, the leaves of the plants on either side are nearly touching. And I know from previous experience, and I'll show you this in another video one day, that the roots on Lomandras, which is what these are, tend to extend out a little bit past the furthest root. And obviously you've got more root density the closer you go to the ball. So in this case, where in some parts of this system the plants are actually reaching out and just touching each other, we've probably got okay root cover in the system and probably got just enough plants, but there's other bits here where there's absolute gaps in the system and you know, probably not doing great treatment. So in terms of coverage of the plants, getting the right plants in the system, we're missing a bit, but we're doing okay. The next question is, are there the right types of plants? Well, in this case, Lomandras aren't bad. Lomandras will do a treatment job. They'll help to break up the media to some extent, you know, and keep it draining, which is what we need. But from a nitrogen point of view, for example, there are species that are better. Carex oppressor is a species that does better from a nitrogen point of view. So this system isn't going to get full marks in that respect, but it's going to get a, yeah, you know what, it's somewhat functional sort of mark, and we'll leave it at that. So I'll spin this around. So hopefully you can see there the benefits of being able to define what a well-functioning system is, because you can often pick up just a couple of those little indicators and then everything else makes a lot more sense from the system. So instead of simply from a maintenance point of view coming out here and going, okay, I need to look at the inlet, I need to look at the outlet, I need to look at that and that, what you can do is go, okay, fundamentally I'm looking for these two things and I'm going to look in each of these locations to check it out. So I'm going to know that I'm looking for is the filter media draining freely, and then I'm going to go look to see what's going on at the inlet, and you can go, is there anything that's threatening that? Yeah, there's a bit of scour. Okay, we got a bit of a problem. In effect, having an understanding of what a well-functioning system is gives you the why for the what that you do. So the what is you come out and you inspect the inlet or you inspect the outlet. But the why is, well, because if there's scour, it might short circuit, or it might risk ripping up the plants, or it might this, or it might that. Sweet. Okay, that's it. That's an indication of how you define a well-functioning bioretention system from a water quality perspective. In the future, we'll do videos that look at amenity and say hydrology and some other things. But to be perfectly honest, at this point in time, the water quality one is most firmed up in my mind. So it's going to be a little bit of a journey for me as the other ones come to, come to fruition, come to form up in my mind. Okay, that's it for this episode. If you liked what we do, liked what you heard here, there's a few ways you can keep in touch with us. You can find us online at www.ideanthro.com. We've got a mailing list. If you scroll to the bottom of the first page, you can sign up there. You can also find all our episodes and projects on the website. We have a Facebook page. You can find us at facebook.com/Ideanthro, and you can find us on YouTube where we post all our videos. You can subscribe to the site and there's playlists and that sort of thing. Sweet. That's it for now. Thanks for tuning in to Ideanthro and enjoy your day. See ya.